The Golden Knights didn't do enough this offseason, says former Vancouver head coach Bruce Boudreau. He tells the NHL Network. Sound familiar? Eh? We'll talk about it next, right here on this edition of Locked On Golden Knights.
You're Locked On Golden Knights, your daily podcast on the Vegas Golden Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Sorry for going Canadian on you right there, Mr. Golick. Hi again, everyone. Tony Cardasco and Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. You can find us wherever you get your podcast. Please make sure to subscribe to our Locked On Golden Knights YouTube channel. We are brought to you today by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, and you will get $20 off of your first purchase by using the promo code LOCKEDONNHL. When he's not doing a cameo from his own messy apartment in the movie Slapshot, you like that opening, huh? Bruce Boudreau is an analyst on the NHL Network. Currently, former NHL head coach said recently that the Golden Knights did not do enough this offseason. They lost more players, 8 to free agency or trades, as we know, in the offseason than they actually gained. He said most of the significant moves happened at the trade deadline with acquisitions of Noah Hanifin and Tomas Hertl. And I have to ask you, Chris, did VGK believe that most of its work was done at the trade deadline?
I think once they fired the extension off for Hanifin, I think that's certainly the way to look at it. I mean, Tomas Hertl comes in. I think he's locked up through 29-30 or something like that. Hanifin, I think maybe even a little bit later or whatever it is. It's basically the same time. So the article cites an outside-the-box approach for Boudreau as far as commenting about the Golden Knights off-season transactions occurred last season instead of now. Another outside-the-box way to look at this. If Kelly McCrimmon had signed free agents Noah Hanifin and Tomas Hertl at the opening of free agency this year, just to say the trades never happened last year, people in Vegas would be, it would be a different perspective. I think it would have softened the blow of the Jonathan Marchessault situation. Myself, many Vegas Golden Knight fans wanted it all. They wanted, Hertl, I don't know about Hertl, but definitely wanted Hanifin and wanted Marchessault to remain a member of the Golden Knights. You want to keep as much as the band together as possible. So Boudreau is right in the sense that the most significant transactions for the Vegas Golden Knights for the 24-25 season occurred at the end of the 23-24 season. And I don't know what more. I mean, now it's been a month and a half since free agency, basically a month and a week, whatever it is, a couple of weeks. Now we have a time to digest it. And really, what more could the Golden Knights have done?
Well, again, they need some more scoring punch. We'll talk about that. Perhaps
Sure.
There's still some free agents out there. Boudreau said that VGK signed Hanifin and Hertl to long-term extensions once they were acquired here. That's not true. Of course, Hertl came with that 8-year deal, and they still have, 6 years remaining. Hertl, by the way, it was interesting to see that they pointed out he was -6. I didn't realize that. With just one goal.
That was interesting. I didn't know that either until the article.
I didn't realize his plus-minus was 6. And the only goal he scored, right, was the face-off goal where he pretty much passed it to himself after winning the face-off. Was that the only goal in that series?
Deflection, but sure. Yeah, no, that was the goal. And I mean, at times, you watch Hertl, and Hertl 5-on-5 did absolutely nothing for me last year. I want to make sure we're clear about that. I believe on Tuesday's show, we talked about Chandler Stevenson. We weren't high on his contract, but one of the positives we did talk about Chandler Stevenson is his 5-on-5 game. So did the Golden Knights go backwards at the 2C position for their second center? I don't know. Is Hertl even going to be a center, Tony? I guess that's another topic we love talking about here. But Hertl, it's again, like we heard about the injuries and the chemistry and all the narratives and all that. We don't need to play who's that narrative this morning, but I do want to see what Hertl looks like after a full, off season. I want to see what Hertl looks like after a full camp with the team. And let's see what version of Hertl we get back. Let's just assume Hertl would not have been traded from the San Jose Sharks. I would assume, and again, I could be wrong on this, I would assume the Sharks would have just shut him down and just let him heal and come back for the 24-25 season.
They didn't have any playoffs.
Well, that's yeah. There you go. You say it with a little smirk on your face. And that's another thing right there. I mean, was Hurdle rushed back? And listen, you got to rush players back. That's why you make that trade. You don't trade for Hurdle and put him on the pine for all the way until the 24-25 season. So let's see what version of Hurdle we get back.
They didn't really plug a lot of holes. They did not plug a lot of those holes that were vacated by the 8 players that went on that exodus.
They improved their best position already, defense. I mean, Hanifin, Alec Martinez wasn't coming back in any circumstances. It was either retirement or get a good paycheck. And Alec Martinez chose $4 million, and I think that's the right decision. But the defense obviously would have been strong had Korzak or Ben Hutton needed to step into that 6th defenseman role. Now the Golden Knights obviously have, I think, who is going to be their number 1 defenseman in Noah Hanifin. Pietrangelo will have a fine season, but Pietrangelo, he's 34 years old, 33 years old, whatever it is. He's getting up there right now. We've talked about Pietrangelo and his role as a number 1 defenseman, and I don't think he is that number 1 standout defenseman anymore, but Noah Hanifin is. Point being is the Golden Knights improved their strength instead of necessarily addressing their weakness. Now, again, what could they have done? Marchessault would have been nice to find a way, obviously, and then you probably don't have the Allison and maybe even the Holt trade leading up to it. The Golden Knights knew that was happening, obviously, when that trade got made. They knew Marchessault was as good as gone, I think, on that Saturday morning. But I don't know. I don't know what else the Golden Knights could have done. I mean, obviously they trade for Holtz. That's hopefully going to, be a chunk of goals. They trade for Olofsson. They scratched that lottery ticket. There's still some players out there, like Tony said in the 3rd segment, we can talk about. So we'll see what else McCrimmon has. Second segment. Third, maybe we'll talk about Leon Draisaitl coming to Vegas. See
there we go. Are they putting too much pressure on Noah Hanifin? I know everyone. This is their golden night child. For this upcoming season. I think that there's a lot of pressure on him coming into the season, and I'm just curious to see how he plays. And then also, you and I are so curious about Tomas Hurdle and whether or not he responds from a couple of knee injuries. So surgery, one of the 9 players in season surgeries. Okay.
You mentioned pressure in Hanifin. I think Hanifin wants this. I mean, what player doesn't want to get that paycheck? What player doesn't want to be looked at as number 1? And he's coming to a team that still has, a good chunk of the Stanley Cup core intact. And there's high hopes for the Golden Knights. Maybe it's more hopes than reality, but we'll find out as the season goes on. And we know McCrimmon is not going to just sit still if the Golden Knights are doing well. Obviously, I hate to just joke about LTIR, but the reality is it happens. It's been 3 years now. We'll see what opportunities present themselves. There we go. Throughout the season to improve this team. If the Golden Knights are doing really, really, really well, at least, if they're in that comfortable playoff spot, like, flirting 2nd, 3rd place in the Pacific Division, come January, McCrimmon's going to be working the phone, seeing what's out there, and McCrimmon's going to shove his chips all in. He doesn't know how to play poker any other way besides balls to the wall, all in every hand, and just being extremely aggressive. So, and Hurdle, I mean, again, we keep going back to Hurdle. What does a healthy Hurdle look like? And
I would personally, Chris, I would be smiling that much as well if I came to Vegas with the bag secured already.
I mean, listen, it's fine. I mean, it's going to be tough to ship Hurdle. I think he's got either a full no trade or a modified no trade. One of the 2.
He has one of those. One of
Hurdle,
the 2.
It's
he's not moving anywhere.
Actually, Hurdle, according to the terms on cap wages, he has no clause on here.
There's no clause.
According to what cap wages are telling me, there's no clause.
Who else is going to want him? We'll be able to tell with Tomas Hurdle early in this season if he has that jump again. We'll be able to tell, I think, relatively.
But he's never had that jump, Tony. He's not that player. Yes, okay. Jump being the fact that being able to get out there and win your battles.
Being able to skate. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, -6. He was a -6 in the playoffs. That's important. That's important.
So bad, right? I mean, in a 7-game series, -6. Coming up next.
Improve that chemistry, Tony. There you go.
chemistry. Here we go again. There are 5 top UFA wingers remaining, including one former Golden Knight. Would Golick sign any of them? Would they fill a void here in Vegas? We'll talk about it next, right here on this edition of Locked On Golden Knights. We want to tell you about our sponsor today, Gametime. Download the Gametime app and use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL. You will get $20 off of your first purchase. And we'd like to tell you, of course, about some of the great features of Gametime: last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. It's an easy way to find tickets for any event here in Las Vegas, as well as purchase any MLB tickets for every event on the planet, pretty much. I like the views from all seats and the venue feature. I know that we've talked about priority last-minute deals where you could save up to 60% by buying last minute for sports, concert, comedy, and theater. And they've got zone deals. And I like personally, I tell you all about it a lot on this show, all in pricing, where you toggle this feature. It shows the total that you're going to be paying up front. So there's really no surprise at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets today on Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL, $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Use the redeem code LOCKEDONNHL, $20 off of your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Back on this edition of Locked On Golden Knights, Tony Cardasco and Chris Golick reporting from Las Vegas. We appreciate you tuning in as always. Please make sure to leave comments all over X at Locked On VGK. Of course, we are on YouTube. Download the YouTube channel, Locked On Golden Knights, and just check it out. And please subscribe there. And of course, Fridays are WTF, Saturdays sometimes at the Chris Jr. Show. We are, just as a follow-up on Guardian Caps, I think we're going to be speaking here within the next week, hopefully, to the owner of Guardian Caps. That was a big topic on this show this week for player safety, and see where they're at with NHL teams on every level. So that'll be pretty interesting. So we're looking forward to that as a little bit of a teaser.
That's pretty odd. Glad they responded to us. That was pretty cool.
They
open our emails.
No, very true. Very true. When they see my name, they definitely do not open them unless they need something like a line pass to a club here in Las Vegas. Okay, so the Daily Faceoff mentioned 5 NHL UFA wingers. No, I did not go out with the girls from Ireland last night. Five. I know. Yeah. School night, I said. I did not get off the hook. The texts were coming rapidly all night. Okay. 5 NHL UFA wingers that are still available. Any chance of VGK, Mr. Golick, pursuing any of them? I'll go through the list here. James Van Riemsdyk, of course, not much left in the tank, 15 NHL seasons. Tyler Johnson, you're familiar with him at age 34. You have Kevin LeBanc. Would VGK dare sign another Shark to go along with Hurdle? You have Mike Hoffman, a journeyman, also a Shark, but a 6-time 20-goal scorer. And Max Pacioretty, 16 seasons, no country club in Vegas.
We can cross Pacioretty off that list right away.
Yeah. No thanks, especially the way he left the franchise, bad injuries. But Pacioretty did have 11 power play points a season ago in Washington. 35 years old, hard pass.
No, I mean, listen, we can talk about Pacioretty for a second, I guess. Pacioretty, like the article mentions that we're talking about here, Pacioretty would take a depth role at this point. No Stanley Cups, tremendously talented player, obviously a lot of injuries, maybe some locker room questions. It's not going to be in Vegas. I don't think that was a healthy end to the marriage, to say the least, especially the comments as he left. So moving on from Pacioretty, I talked about Kevin LeBlanc. I talked about him in one of my, I think the same article with Victor Olofsson. Listen, last season wasn't sexy. 46 games, 9 points. Let's make sure we address that right away before we get too excited here. We are talking a 28-year-old who has had over 50 points one time in his NHL career, 2018-19, 17 goals, 39 assists. 2017, 2018, he even had a couple of games with the Barracuda that year, but 77 NHL games, 40 points, 11 goals. And then after that, you got goal totals of 14 and 12 and 15, assist totals 19, 16 and 18. So, you're talking about someone who you could maybe see in a third line role with the Golden Knights as far as, just having an experienced winger along the side of William Karlsson, assuming William Karlsson is the third line center. I'm not completely locked in that cast. He's not going to do something weird with some of the centers trying to make them wingers, but assuming William Karlsson does come in as 3C as the third center, LeBlanc, that could be that could be something interesting to pursue. And again, we're talking to 28-year-olds. We're talking to a 28-year-old who is unsigned as of August the 15th. We're talking a 28-year-old who will take the league minimum at this point. And the Golden Knights, I think, have about that much money to work with, according to Cap Wages. Great website, again, Cap Wages. The Golden Knights, as of this moment, are negative $3.6 million, but that doesn't factor Robin Lehner's $5 million hitting the LTIR bank. So $1.4 million is out there for the Golden Knights, and LeBlanc could be interesting. It would also create some more internal competition with not as much Dorofeev, but definitely Brisson, Holtz, and Olofsson. And then obviously LeBlanc would get added to that too. And I'd be okay with that.
You'd
Maybe
be okay with that.
I'd be a great PTO candidate.
I was just going to say a PTO is a lifeline for veterans, right? So they can sign one of these players to a
We're not
PTO
talking a 34-year-old. We're talking a 28-year-old too.
But okay, so professional tryout.
December 12th birthday, by the way. December 12th, Tony. Okay.
Sagittarius, I believe. Limited to 25 games. Of course, if you sign a player to a PTO, you can have a Max Comtois on your hands, or you could have something better that can maybe push.
I think he went to the K.
Max Comtois. Do you remember Bruce Cassidy when he was asked about Comtois and if he's going to make the team and if they liked his role? And he was just like,
he gave nothing. He
just absolutely.
The locker room enjoyed it. The locker room liked him talking to the other players, but and like Max was really good with us with the media and stuff too.
Cassidy hated him.
No,
Cassidy's like, why is this guy here? He just did not fit. Was not a good fit.
No, and we all asked him different questions about it, and we got nothing positive, nothing.
But a PTO would be great, right? If you are going after
PTO for any of the guys we're about to talk about would be fun. Any of the guys.
Coming up next, we'll talk about in the division, the latest speculation and rumors around one, Leon Draisaitl of Edmonton. That comes your way next, right here on this edition of Locked On Golden Knights. Passion, drive, and patience, what brings home the winning trophy, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain your vehicle. You can level it up to peak performance from superchargers and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you are looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride each and every time, or you get your money back, because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need, the prices that you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Back on this edition of Locked On Golden Knights, Tony Cardasco and Chris Golick from Las Vegas. We appreciate you making us your first listen each and every day. Find us wherever you get your podcast. Please subscribe to our Locked On Golden Knights YouTube channel. Of course, Fridays, that's tomorrow already. It's amazing how fast these weeks just zip by.
I was working last night, and it's like 9:30, 10 o'clock, whatever, and I hear garbage cans being rolled outside.
Oh, wait, you live next to a Houston Astro?
Yeah, right, exactly. They're not banging, rolling, relax. And I hear garbage cans rolling. I'm like, wow, it's Wednesday already. It's just crazy. Anyway, keep going.
It is crazy. No, of course, WTF on Fridays, Saturdays sometimes. It's the Chris and Chris Jr. Show. Football's in the air, right? So Saturday, I've got the doubleheader. So the Las Vegas Aces return home. They play at 12:30, 7 o'clock, Raiders Cowboys preseason over there at Allegiant Stadium. And they also had a great crowd last night for their first open scrimmage there, open practice at Allegiant Stadium. So, yes, football season is definitely here as well. New coach Stan Bowman has to deal with ongoing contract extension talks the team is having. Edmonton Oilers with Leon Draisaitl. $13.5 million a year is the projection. We know, so Draisaitl, I guess, wants 14.5, but he wants term of 8 years. These 8-year contracts, I think, are very dangerous. How many of these players actually fulfill that, especially this late with this much wear and tear, fulfill the 8 years and are as productive for all 8? I think they're going to settle on term, and it won't be 14.5, most likely in the 13 to $13.5 million range. And how do you pay 2 players this kind of money on a team where it would take up, it's got to take, you're better with math than I am, it would take up like 30 some odd percent of their salary structure cap?
Okay, so McDavid is 12 something. Let's say let's go 12. A
McDavid's
lot
getting
of
15 the next
zeros,
time around.
one more
Add the zero,
zero, and then
carry another one.
we'll do 13.5 and a lot of zeros. 26 million salary cap right now is what, 85 million? Is that the number?
About
86?
close to 85, correct.
26. I think it's 80. I think it's 86. 26
Or
million
86.
divided by $86 million. Bam. 30.2%. That's a lot. That's a lot of money. That's
That
a
was quick
lot
math
of
in my head. That's pretty
mucho
good.
dinero and a lot of American money and loonies and toonies and well right there. So yeah, I mean, how does one team pay all of that? That's a great question. McDavid is going to be a UFA after the 2025-26 season. So McDavid's contract will be up the year after Draisaitl's current contract is up. So what does McDavid get? You said, can a player be that productive late? An 8-year max extension would put Draisaitl 36 years old. So I mean, it's the Jonathan Marchessault discussion on a very grander scale, if you will. The concern was term for Marchessault in that last year of the contract, basically, is what held up this entire deal. How many productive years do you get out of someone, whether you're paying them $5 million or $8 million or $14 million AAV? That's obviously a very important question. For the last 2 or 3 years of that deal with Draisaitl getting $14 million as a 35, 36-year-old, that's a concern. But again, you're paying for the now. You're paying for the 4 to 5 year Stanley Cup window, maybe even 5 to 6 year Stanley Cup window that the Edmonton Oilers may have, and who knows how long McDavid will be. This version of McDavid getting 100 points on one foot with one of his eyes closed. That's how good McDavid is right now. So the concern is the Stanley Cup window and the length it's going to be open for, and also the other side of that, GMs. I mean, what's the return for a Leon Draisaitl in a trade? What's the return? I don't know if you're going to get a player that's going to put up that as many points as Draisaitl does, but man, there's going to be something fun out there if they were to consider that. I mean, we'll see where Stan Bowman's going to go with it.
Would you go 4 years and pay him the 14.5, or 8 years times 13.5 million? Again, salary cap continues to go up. It continues to grow, which is a positive thing. So they can afford, I guess, to pay both of those superstars. But a lot of these complementary pieces, right now, we're seeing already that teams are going after the Oilers and free agents. And we saw the offer sheets this past week by St. Louis.
That was
right?
Interesting.
For Dylan Holloway and for Philip Broberg. So they were tendered offer sheets.
Holloway's the key in that one. That's a good pickup if that actually
about
happens.
2 point something million, I think, a year. And so I think by the 20th, the 20th, I think next week, the Oilers will have to respond and either match it or they're gone. And now you're getting into all sorts of cap issues. Yeah, you can pay those guys the big fat salaries, but what, at the expense of losing complementary pieces? It's getting real interesting in Edmonton.
So the Oilers right now, I don't know what their LTIR circumstances are, but they're
Well,
minus three.
Evander Kane's going. He'll probably start the season on LTIR, and his injury might be even
Well,
worse
that's
than I
$5
think
million
folks
right
imagine.
there. So they'll have the money to work with, and obviously figure it out later, like the Golden Knights do every season. Talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs for a second. They have 4 players that are penciled in $10 million, well, $10.9 million or greater. So 13, 24, 35, 46. It's $47.5 million, if my math is correct, for 4 players. Over half of their entire salary cap. Now, these are 4 pretty good players: Austin Matthews, William Nylander, John Tavares, and of course, one Mitch Marner we've talked a lot about. But what has it equated to? It's another first round loss, number one. And then they got out of the first round last year, barely. Before that, what does this do? So, Edmonton Oilers, this is where they got to be really careful here. And, you know, obviously, as Golden Knights supporters, it'd be nice if the Oilers strapped themselves for cash and, of course, made the path to the Pacific a little bit easier for the Vegas Golden Knights. But as long as you got Draisaitl and McDavid and a capable goalie right now in Stuart Skinner, I can't believe I said that. But as long as you got those 3 things, you got a chance in Edmonton. You got a really good chance. This is basically the same team that nearly crawled out of a 3-0 deficit and came, 2 goals away from winning the Stanley Cup. So, it's not that bad in Edmonton, but 4 or 5 years, 4, 5, 6 years from now, that's obviously a different story. Should Draisaitl get this 14 or 13, or does he go down to 12.5 million if it's an 8-year max contract? I don't know, but this also ties in, Tony, to another show we talked about. Should more players maybe take more team-friendly deals
Without a doubt, to keep the band
to
together.
keep the band together? And what's the difference between $14 million and $12 million? To me, it's nothing. To someone like Leon Draisaitl, whose bank account has more commas than mine ever will, it makes sense to go for the money, I guess. I don't know. I hope one of these days I can argue with someone. No. I really need that 13.5 million. I know you want to give me 12. I really hope I get to have that negotiation at some point. Yeah.
You need to be like Jalen Brunson, who left 100 million, 100 and some odd million on the table for the sake of trying to win.
I hope I'm in a
New York.
place where I can leave $100 million on the table. I
But
hope.
then can you imagine? He's like, yeah, I have enough money. He's the first player really that I know, perhaps in this generation, not ours, because my generation passed, but perhaps one of the top players to do this and make a statement, winning over everything else. I could wait, contract year, sign later, job the Knicks, get as much money as I possibly can. I think it was 100. It might have been 160 mil, whatever it is. But yeah, I think more players need to be unselfish, where you do reach that point where I'm making enough. Right now, it's got to be some ego. It's got to be him, as much as they're friends on the same team and everything else.
Don't forget
It's
the
got to
agent
be
in there. Don't
Draisaitl
forget the agent.
and
The
the
agent
agent in the middle.
obviously wants to get paid, and it's
Right.
not just about the individual player. I think that's also something important here.
Wait till Scott Boras starts
God.
to infiltrate the NHL.
Oh God. Next question. No, wait until That was who was that with? Terrell Owens, Scott Boras. Next question.
Baseball.
Who was the football agent that kept doing next question when the guy was in the front yard? I think it was with Ojo Cinco, whatever. All right, moving on from that. It's not just about the individual player and what's the difference between 14 million and 12 million for someone who's got over $100 million, at least, or they will, in the near future. It doesn't matter. It's inconsequential, but it does matter to all of the players in the National Hockey League, because buying hockey players, call it what it is, buying hockey players and signing hockey players, it's not a lot different than comps on your house. So if you're looking to purchase a house in a neighborhood or sell your house, maybe more importantly, you look at what the house across the street sold for. You look at what the house next door sold for. You look at what the house in the same community in the next block over sold for. And then, okay, well, my house is, if that house sold for 200, well, nothing's like that cheap. But if that house right there sold for 500,000, it's got the same amount of square footage, same everything. I want 500,000 for my house. Someone comes in for 480,000. You tell them to pound sand. You want your 500,000, and it sets a trend for the entire neighborhood, just like an NHL player. Now, Draisaitl is different. He's obviously in that top, 1% tier and stuff like that. But this really does matter for players that are making, the 3s, the 4s, and the 5 millions and stuff to get that money, because it helps the entire league as far as the play. Not helps the league necessarily, but it helps the individual players.
How much does the salary cap go up again now every season in
I
the
think
future?
there's another 4 million coming up next season. I'm not mistaken. And I know my argument always in the Jonathan Marchessault situation was, by the end of his contract, should he have received a 5-year deal with the Vegas Golden Knights, it would have been flirting with $100 million by that point.
Yeah,
So
they already would have paid for itself. Again, that just gets you crazy.
another argument we've had a million times.
Yes, just like Boudreau saying, did you know what? So that really was Bruce Boudreau in Slapshot. That really was his apartment. They wanted to find a sloppy apartment, and he goes,
What
hey,
scene was that?
he's in his
Were they in the
apartment.
apartment
Go
scene?
back, figure it out, find it. I'm not like the movie guy. That's all
I've seen
that I
that movie a
remember
million
seeing.
times. I'm trying to recall that specific scene.
It's
Like,
in
I
his
know
apartment. It's in his very own apartment. They were like, we need a slob, like an Oscar Madison type or whatever.
they could
And
have found me 20 years ago. I would have been perfect for it.
hey, we appreciate everyone tuning in. I don't want to
Perfect
go
ending.
there. Yeah.
Perfect ending.
We
Let's
appreciate
go.
you tuning in, especially our everydayers. Thank you so much. Tomorrow's WTF. Line up all of your comments as always. Don't forget, sometimes the Chris and Chris Jr. show right here. And make sure you subscribe.
We're a couple
to our
weeks
Locked On
away
Golden
from the
Knights.
triumphant return of the Chris and Chris show. We talked about. We're ready. We're ready for September.
Yes, please. I can't wait because I need to steal some content from little Chris there for sure. Of course,
steal your job, bro.
yes, he wants it. I know. Of course, please subscribe to our Locked On Golden Knights YouTube channel. For my man, Chris Golick, I am Tony Cardasco from Las Vegas. We appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you again tomorrow for WTF right here on Locked On Golden Knights. And please make sure that you take care.